I never thought heartbreak could smell like coffee. Yet there I was, clutching a paper cup as if it could anchor me to sanity, staring across the cafe at someone I once loved, someone I didn't recognize anymore. His hair, neatly combed, caught the late afternoon light just so, but the warmth in his eyes that used to make my chest ache was gone, replaced with the kind of professional detachment that could slice through steel. Ethan? My voice sounded foreign even to me, thin and unsteady. He glanced up from his laptop, eyebrows flicking slightly. Recognition flashed, quick and guarded, like a candle caught in a gust of wind. Lucas. The name hung in the air between us, heavier than a tombstone. 2 years. 2 years of silence, resentment, and the occasional lonely night haunted by memories I could barely touch without wincing. I remembered him in fragments. Laughing in the rain on that terrible first date, his hand brushing mine during late-night walks, the whispered confessions in the dark. Memories I had stored in some locked chest in my heart. And yet here he was, tall and composed, and my chest tightened at the impossibility of it all. I didn't expect. I stopped. What could I say? That I never got over him? That the sight of him made every effort to move on crumble like dry parchment? He closed his laptop, the motion deliberate. I didn't either. His voice was calm, smooth, but lacking the playful teasing I remembered. That playful spark had been replaced by something professional, almost foreign. The irony wasn't lost on me. We met because of love, survived months of laughter and quiet nights together, only to part ways in a storm of misunderstandings and unspoken words. And now, the universe had the audacity to throw us into the same city, same street, same awkward proximity. So, how have you been? My words sounded hollow even to my own ears. Good. Simple. Flat. Clinical. Busy with work. And there it was, the wall, the invisible barrier built over time, brick by brick, designed to shield him from the past or perhaps himself. I felt the familiar sting of rejection, though nothing had been offered. I sipped my coffee, bitter and hot, and tried to focus on the chaos of the street outside. People walked by, oblivious to the emotional landmine just a few feet away. But every time his eyes flicked up to glance at me, my world shrank. I remembered how gentle he had been, how his laugh could erase a week's worth of exhaustion. And now, his laughter was reserved for strangers, his smiles polite, and I felt like a ghost wandering through a city I once called home. Lucas, are you free tonight? His voice, low and cautious, startled me. My chest thudded, and I realized I had been holding my breath. Yeah, I think so. He nodded, looking slightly uncomfortable. There's a bar near the river. Quiet. Not many people. I wanted to say no. I wanted to run away and hide in the hollow of my memories where he still belonged to me. But part of me, the foolish part, wanted to see him, to touch the ghost that had haunted my nights for so long. We walked in silence along the street, the late autumn air cool against our skin. The city was alive with the usual clamor of traffic and distant music, but around us, there was a bubble of tension and nostalgia that made each step feel heavier. He spoke first. You've changed. You too. I tried to sound casual, but the words fell short. He looked down at his shoes for a moment, then back at me. I guess life happens. I nodded, understanding all too well. Life had indeed happened. Our plans, our dreams, our once shared laughter replaced by distance and duty. But beneath it all, beneath the professional mask, I could still see glimpses of him, the boy I had loved and lost. The bar by the river was small and dimly lit, warm light spilling from a few scattered lamps. A piano played softly in the corner, notes floating like memories between the two of us. We chose a corner booth, far from the few patrons scattered around. Do you remember the night we first kissed? I asked, hesitant but desperate to anchor the past to the present. He swallowed, eyes darkening. Of course. How could I forget? The memory was a dagger wrapped in velvet. Rain dripping from the eaves, the city lights blurred into gold and red, our hands trembling as they found each other. That kiss had been the start of everything, and also, unknowingly, the start of the hurt. I laughed softly, though it felt strained. We were idiots. Yeah, he admitted, a ghost of a smile flickering across his lips. Young and reckless. The conversation wavered between laughter and silence, each pause a reminder of what had been lost, and what might never return. Yet, something in the air between us shifted, a faint electricity, a rekindling of the bond we had thought extinguished. Hours passed unnoticed, the night stretching like a ribbon, and I found myself leaning closer, drawn to him despite every warning in my mind. His hand brushed mine on the table, tentative, testing boundaries we had once crossed without hesitation. My heart leapt, and for a moment, the lawyer before me and the boy I had loved merged into one image, blurring the lines of reality and memory. And then, just as quickly, the moment was gone. He retracted his hand, a shadow crossing his face. Lucas, but I interrupted, voice low and urgent. Don't say it yet. Let's just be here, for now. He looked at me, uncertainty and longing mingling in his gaze. The city outside moved on, unaware of the fragile thread connecting two hearts in a quiet bar by the river. And for the first time in years, I allowed myself to hope that maybe, just maybe, the boy I had loved and the man before me could coexist again, if only for this night. The river outside glimmered under the streetlights, its surface reflecting the city in fractured shards, much like the pieces of us scattered over the past 2 years. Ethano, the man who once was Ethan, sat across from me, his posture stiff but his fingers occasionally brushing against mine, almost involuntarily. It was subtle, fleeting, but it sent a shiver down my spine. So, how's work? I asked, though I knew it was just a pretense. Everything between us now had to start with pretense, as if we were strangers dancing around memories too painful to name. He smiled faintly, the ghost of his old warmth flashing before retreating behind his professional armor. Demanding, lots of long hours, but fulfilling in its way. You, I shrugged. Teaching. I love it, but it's exhausting. The conversation felt like treading water, careful and slow, but every word, every glance, carried undercurrents of the past. It was maddening and intoxicating all at once. You look different, he said after a pause, studying me. Not the face that was impossible to change, but the aura. The way I carried myself, the slight weariness in my eyes. Stronger. I laughed softly, bitterly. You have no idea how much pretending I've done just to survive since you left. His eyes softened for a brief moment, and I saw the boy I had loved flicker there again, the playful, tender soul who used to wrap me in warmth and laughter. But it was gone before I could reach for it. Gone, replaced by the composed, untouchable lawyer I now faced. We left the bar eventually, the night air crisp and biting against our skin. The river sparkled beside us, moonlight scattering across the waves. I wanted to take his hand, to anchor us both in the moment, but hesitation rooted me to the spot. Do you want to walk? He asked, voice careful. I nodded, and we fell into step beside each other, the silence between us heavy but not uncomfortable. There was a strange intimacy in simply being near him, in syncing our pace without speaking. Lucas, he started but then faltered. The way he said my name soft, uncertain was enough to make my heart race. I've missed a lot. I swallowed. I wanted to ask him what exactly he had missed, but fear of shattering the fragile connection we were rebuilding held my tongue. Me? I whispered. He didn't answer immediately, and the pause stretched, laden with unspoken truths and regrets. Finally, he said, yes, you. What we had. The honesty in his voice, raw and unguarded, cut through the years of hurt and resentment. My chest ached, but it was a different ache, one that spoke of hope rather than despair. We found ourselves at a quiet park, the city lights a soft glow behind the trees. He leaned against a lamppost, hands in his pockets, and I approached cautiously. Every step felt weighted with memories, every heartbeat a drum of anticipation and fear. I don't know if we can. He began, then stopped. Can what? I asked, keeping my voice steady even as my insides quivered. Go back to what we were. he admitted finally. I've changed, Lucas. You've changed. We're not the same people anymore. I nodded slowly, understanding the gravity of his words. But even in the midst of uncertainty, I felt a spark, the unextinguished ember of something neither time nor distance could completely erase. Maybe we don't need to go back, I said softly. Maybe we just need to start something new, with what we have now, not what we lost. His eyes searched mine, hesitation and longing warring within them. Finally, he stepped closer, and the space between us shrank until it was almost unbearable. The air seemed to vibrate with tension, with possibility. Start something new, he repeated, as if testing the phrase on his lips. Yes, I whispered. Together, whatever that means. And then, slowly, tentatively, he reached for my hand. Fingers intertwined, tentative at first, then with growing confidence. The touch was electric, sending warmth spiraling through me. The years of absence, the pain, the longing all melted away in that simple connection. We walked in silence for a while, hand in hand, hearts gradually sinking. There was a cautious joy in our steps, a tentative dance of rediscovery. Every laugh, every glance, every brush of our fingers reminded us of what had been lost and what could be regained. You remember our first apartment? I asked, breaking the silence. The one with the broken heater and the terrible view? He laughed, a sound that made my chest tighten with longing. How could I forget? We survived that winter huddled under blankets, pretending the cold wasn't killing us. And we almost killed each other over who had to make the coffee, I added, smiling at the memory. He chuckled softly. Yes, I remember. You always hated mornings. And you loved them too much, I teased. The warmth between us grew with each shared memory, slowly disarming the walls we had built. Eventually, we found ourselves at the edge of the river, the city skyline shimmering in the distance. We leaned against the railing, side by side, letting the quiet intimacy settle around us. Lucas, he said finally, voice low, hesitant. Yes, I asked, heart thudding in anticipation. I don't want to mess this up again, he admitted. I don't want to lose you. You won't? I promised softly, turning to meet his gaze. Not this time. And in that moment, something shifted. The past, with all its pain and regret, became a foundation rather than a weight. We were standing on the precipice of something fragile, something new, and yet filled with the potential for joy, love, and healing. He leaned closer, brushing his forehead against mine, and I felt the familiar warmth, the spark that had never truly gone out. Our breaths mingled, hearts racing in unison, and I realized that love, in its most honest form, could survive even the harshest storms. I've wanted this for so long, he murmured. Me too, I whispered, closing the distance between us. Our lips met in a tentative kiss, soft and questioning at first, then deepening with the weight of all we had endured. It was a kiss that spoke of forgiveness, of longing, of rediscovery. A kiss that said, we may have been broken, but together we could be whole again. The city continued to hum around us, oblivious to the quiet miracle unfolding by the river. We stayed there for a long time, wrapped in each other's arms, letting the night stretch on without worry or expectation. I missed this, he confessed, burying his face in my shoulder. I missed you, I replied, holding him tighter. Every single day. And in that embrace, all the hurt, all the distance, all the misunderstandings seemed to fade. The man before me, no longer the boy I had loved, but a version shaped by life's trials, was still capable of tenderness, still capable of love. And I, too, had changed, stronger and wiser, but still capable of opening my heart. We walked back toward the city slowly, hand in hand, laughter and conversation flowing easily now. The streets that had once felt like a maze of loneliness now felt like a familiar path home. Ethaner, the man he had become, looked at me with a softness I hadn't seen in years. Do you think we can really make this work? I smiled, warmth spreading through me. I think we already are. One step at a time. He nodded, squeezing my hand gently. "One step at a time," he repeated, and I knew we meant it. The night stretched on, filled with quiet moments, shared glances, and the slow rebuilding of trust. We talked about the past, about regrets, about the moments we had lost. But more importantly, we talked about the future tentative plans, small dreams, the possibility of a life together again. By the time the first light of dawn touched the city, we were still walking, still hand in hand, hearts tethered together by something stronger than memory or time. The river reflected the soft pink and gold of the morning sky, a mirror to the fragile, beautiful connection we had rekindled. And as we stood there, side by side, I realized that love wasn't about perfection. It wasn't about never breaking or never leaving. It was about returning over and over with open hearts willing to try again. We were no longer the same boys who had fallen in love so recklessly. We were older, wiser, tempered by experience, but still capable of the tenderness and passion that had once defined us. And for the first time in years, I felt truly, irrevocably alive. The morning air was crisp, carrying the scent of the river and the faint hum of the city waking up. Ethan and I walked side by side, our hands still intertwined, a silent promise binding us together. There was no rush, no urgency, only the quiet rhythm of our steps and the reassurance of each other's presence. We found a small cafe tucked away on a side street, the kind of place that felt like a secret. Inside, sunlight streamed through the windows, painting the wooden tables in golden hues. The aroma of fresh pastries and brewing coffee wrapped around us, a comforting cocoon of warmth. "Coffee?" I asked, already heading toward the counter. "Two, please," he said, smiling softly at me. That smile, warm, real, untamed, made my chest tighten in the most delicious way. We found a corner table by the window and sat down, the morning light illuminating his face. It was different from the night before, less guarded, more present. The walls between us, once so high and impenetrable, were starting to crumble in quiet, subtle ways. "You know," he began, stirring his coffee absent-mindedly, "I never thought I'd see you again after all those years." I shrugged, trying to keep my voice casual, though my heart was racing. "Life has a funny way of bringing people back." He nodded, eyes distant for a moment, then focused on me with that intensity one had missed so much. "I've missed everything. The little things, the big things. You." I reached across the table, taking his hand gently in mine. "Me too," I said softly. "Every day." He squeezed my hand, and I felt the unspoken promise in that simple gesture. It was a promise of patience, of understanding, of building something anew from the remnants of the past. The conversation flowed easily after that, laughter and teasing mingling with quiet confessions. We spoke of our lives over the years, the challenges we had faced, and the lessons we had learned. But beneath it all, there was a current of tenderness, a recognition that despite everything, we had found our way back to each other. Later, we wandered through the city, the streets alive with morning energy. We stopped at a small park, the trees rustling in the gentle breeze. Children played nearby, their laughter a cheerful soundtrack to the serenity of the moment. Ethan and I sat on a bench, shoulders brushing, the comfort of proximity grounding us. "Do you remember the night we got caught in the rain?" I asked, a playful smile tugging at my lips. He laughed, the sound light and warm. "How could I forget? We were soaked, shivering, and yet you refused to go inside until I kissed you." "I had to make it dramatic," I admitted, grinning. "You made it worth it, though." He leaned back, eyes softening as he looked at me. "You always had a way of making life more vivid, more alive. And you always had a way of making me feel safe," I replied, my voice barely above a whisper. We sat in comfortable silence for a while, letting the moments stretch, savoring the simplicity of being together. There was no need for grand gestures or elaborate promises, just the quiet, unwavering presence of each other. As the day progressed, we found ourselves back at the river, the city skyline glowing in the afternoon sun. The water shimmered, reflecting the brilliance of the sky and the promise of new beginnings. "I think," he began, his voice thoughtful. That we can make this work. Slowly, carefully. We've been given a second chance. I nodded, heart swelling with hope. Yes, step by step. We'll figure it out together. He smiled, a mixture of relief and joy lighting up his features. Together, he echoed. The evening arrived, and the city was bathed in golden light, the streets alive with the soft hum of life. We found a quiet spot by the riverbank, the water glinting in the fading sunlight. Ethan turned to me, his expression open, vulnerable in a way that made my heart ache with longing. "Lucas," he said softly, "thank you for staying, for being here." I brushed a strand of hair from his forehead, my fingers lingering on his cheek. "I never left," I whispered. "Not really." He leaned closer, and our foreheads touched, the warmth between us spreading like a gentle flame. "Then let's make sure we never do again," he murmured. I nodded, tears threatening to spill, but I held them back, letting the emotion settle in the quiet strength of our embrace. "Never again," I promised. And then, as if to seal the unspoken vows between us, he kissed me. It was soft, lingering, and filled with the weight of all we had endured. It spoke of forgiveness, hope, and the beautiful possibility of a shared future. Every hesitation, every fear melted away in that moment, leaving only the undeniable truth. We were meant to find each other again. The stars began to appear, twinkling above the city, reflecting the spark in our hearts. We sat by the river, hand in hand, speaking softly about the future. There were no guarantees, no promises of perfection, only a commitment to try, to rebuild, to love fully and courageously. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months, and with each passing moment, our bond deepened. We discovered new layers of each other, laughed at old memories, and created new ones. The city that once felt like a maze of loneliness became a canvas for our shared dreams and quiet joys. Ethan, once distant and untouchable, was now my partner, my confidant, my home. And I, having endured the pain of loss and longing, was finally able to open my heart fully, trusting in the resilience of love. One quiet evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of pink and gold, we walked along the river, fingers intertwined, hearts beating in unison. The city around us moved at its usual pace, but in our bubble of shared presence, time seemed to slow, allowing us to savor the simplicity and beauty of being together. "I love you," he said suddenly, his voice firm and unwavering. "I love you too," I replied, my heart soaring. We stopped, turned to face each other, and kissed, not the tentative, questioning kisses of the past, but a deep, certain kiss that carried the promise of forever. The river sparkled beside us, a silent witness to our rekindled love, and for the first time in years, I felt whole. The night enveloped us, but there was no fear, no doubt, only the warmth of our hearts intertwined, the quiet joy of a love rediscovered and nurtured. We walked home slowly, laughing softly, speaking in whispered words, savoring every precious moment. And as we entered our apartment, a small, cozy space filled with the light of a new beginning, I knew that the past, with all its pain and memories, had led us here, not to perfect happiness, but to something better. A love strengthened by adversity, a bond forged through trials, and a future built on understanding, patience, and unwavering devotion. Ethan and I sat by the window, the city lights twinkling below. He rested his head on my shoulder, and I wrapped my arm around him, feeling the steady rhythm of his heartbeat against mine. "Whatever happens," he murmured, "we'll face it together." "Together?" I repeated, sealing our vow. Outside, the city carried on, oblivious to the quiet miracle unfolding in a small apartment. Inside, two hearts beat as one, tethered by love, trust, and the shared memory of a past that had made this moment all the more precious. And in that embrace, in that simple, unspoken promise, we found our forever. No more distance, no more fear, just love, fully realized, gently blooming, and unshakable. The journey had been long, painful, and uncertain, but it had led us to each other. And that Ethan and I both knew was all that truly mattered. We had returned, not to what we were, but to something stronger, deeper, and infinitely more beautiful. Together at last. Thank you for listening. If you find it interesting, please like and subscribe to follow the next stories.